It was a magical time filled with daring adventure.
The planes were primitive, my goodness. It was all flying to the seat of your pants.
When heroes wore leather helmets, jodhpur pants, and walked on wings.
They were the equivalent of our sports stars, our rock stars, our movie stars today.
When it was still possible to be really first at something. First across America. First across the Atlantic.
After 41 hours in the air, Clyde Pangborn and Hugh Herndon have successfully flown across the Pacific, nonstop.
This is about a man all but forgotten by history. Daredevil, adventurer, pioneer, Clyde Upside Down Pangborn.
He's probably the most underappreciated, least recognizable superstar aviator of the times.
In 1931, Clyde Pangborn and Hugh Herndon did what no one had done before, fly nonstop across the Pacific, marking one of the great aviation milestones.
You're driving me crazy, in love but I'm lazy. How I want to praise thee, how I just want to dance.
If there is such a thing as fate, then Clyde Pangborn came along at the exact moment to fulfill his destiny. Pang was a man of his time, complicated, good-looking, a ladies' man.
He was a pilot's pilot.
He was every bit the pilot that Charles Lindbergh or Jimmy Doolittle or any of the other great pilots that people recognize.
Pang lived to fly, relentlessly pushing the aviation envelope. When he set his mind to do something, he invariably succeeded. His accomplishments spanned a lifetime of aviation history.
He had to be a daredevil. He may have looked calm, but my goodness, you couldn't have done those kind of things without iron nerve.
Pangborn clearly had a real independent streak.
Is at war with Germany.
He liked to do things his way. He clearly craved adventure. And throughout his life, he made a series of choices to always pursue his dreams, what most energized him in life, which was clearly flying.
Trained as a civil engineer, Pang paid meticulous attention to detail. This trait, along with his quiet, confident nature, was a vivid contrast to his flamboyant, colorful career and lifestyle.
He seems to sort of embody that spirit that we like to think of as of the West, the strong, silent type, the man who is true to his word, almost a larger-than-life figure in many respects because of his accomplishments and because of what people thought of him.
The dawn of the 20th century was in sight when Clyde Edward Pangborn was born. Horse-drawn carriages competed with noisy, dusty, unreliable gadgets called automobiles. Birds and clouds were the only things in the sky. Clyde's parents divorced early in his life. His brother Percy and father remained on a ranch near Wenatchee, Washington. Clyde and his mother moved to the small logging town of St. Mary's in North Idaho. Even as a small boy, Pang wanted to fly.
It seemed like from an early age, Pangborn loved heights, he loved adventure.
He evidently saw an early aviator fly into St. Mary's and was just so taken by the idea of going up into the air that from that moment on, he was determined to become a pilot.
Clyde's mother would later write of the incident.
Clyde wanted to fly it right then and there, and he hung around the plane constantly until he left.
I think like a lot of young boys growing up shortly before World War I, this idea of an airplane held a tremendous fascination.
I really lost sleep when Clyde, as a boy, built a makeshift plane and wrecked it near our St. Mary's home. He built a campfire near the wreckage and stayed there all night long.
Over there, send the word over there.
Pang learned to fly when he joined the Army Signal Corps during World War I. Aviation was barely 10 years old at the time.
And we won't come back till it's over there.
Sing a song all day long. Can't go wrong when you sing a song.
The military is where Pang met his first true love, a Curtiss JN-4D Jenny. Basically, a flying birdcage. He knew her inside and out.
He had to know engines. They had to be mechanics in those days. They had to do everything themselves.
The type of flying he did was flying rickety old biplanes, engines that had a life expectancy of about 120 hours, forced landings all the time. He had skills that were way out there at the edge of what people could do.
Pangborn was a natural pilot. After mastering loops and tailspins, Pang couldn't resist more challenging aerobatic stunts.
He took particular delight in flying so low that he could roll the Jenny's wheels on his commanding officer's quarters or play leapfrog over the hangars and sometimes fly through them. These persistent, nerve-wracking stunts earned Pang the reputation as one of Peck's bad boys of the air service.
By the end of the war in 1919, aviation had proved itself an invaluable and effective tool of war. Now in peace, with the country entering the roaring 20s, there was a glut of surplus planes, a newfound fascination with flying, and an elite group of aviators, the Barnstormers.
He was a daredevil. He would fly down the main street of town upside down about 20 feet off the tops of the buildings just to let his mom know he was in town.
Country hicks, like we all were at that time, were pretty excited to see somebody actually turning a plane over and flying it upside down, walking on wings and that kind of thing. That was really big-time entertainment.
In order to make money, they would hop from small community to small community, and that's where the barnstorming name came from. These men would fly in low over a farmer's barn looking for a field that was safe to land in. Then they would set up to give rides and to do aerial acrobatics above the town.
Every schoolboy in town was wearing a leather helmet, you know, just like Lindy did.
Pangborn did every stunt imaginable, walk on wings, change planes in midair, perform the death-cheating breakaway.
He was a tremendous athlete. He must have had a grip of steel because in one afternoon when he was barnstorming, he set a world's record by doing airplane-to-airplane exchanges 21 times in a row with no parachute.
But Pang's signature stunt was flying upside down.
Pangborn became so good at it that he actually wrote the word Pang across the top wing of his airplane so that he could advertise himself. He would flip over and fly upside down, and they would know that it was upside down Pangborn.
During the barnstorming days, we didn't have any regulations, except for the ones we made. The ships we flew were remodeled Army planes. The changes we made weren't copied from some textbook, but born out of our own hard-earned experience. 9 out of 10 pilots were good pilots. You had to be good in order to stay alive. And stunts, that was routine work then. Therefore, emergencies were routine.
Such a routine emergency was reported by the San Diego Sun.
Before a San Diego crowd predicted to surpass any that Coronado Beach has seen this season, Clyde Pangborn, acrobat of the air, his aviator partner Ralph Reed, and driver Al Lambla in his big Lozier will, this afternoon, stage a program of real thrills. The stunt, never performed in aero history, has Air Devil Pangborn leaping from the platform of Lambla's speeding car to a 12-foot rope ladder dangling from Reed's plane.
He had been hired by the big resort hotel, the Del Coronado, to do this stunt. And they practiced the stunt 3 or 4 times on their own and did it perfectly. And then the manager of the hotel said, well, guys, I know you're doing a great job, but it looks too easy, so I want you to make it harder.
Terrific speed, cool mastery of skill and daring. Two whizzing mechanical monsters, one of the land, one of the air, will make the Otto airplane transfer a tensely dramatic spectacle. How it will end is beyond prediction.
In the process of making it look more challenging, they got out of sync from each other, and Pangborn, as he reached up and attempted to grab that ladder, missed and fell off the back of the car at 60 miles an hour.
Clyde E. Pangborn, Air Devil acrobat, was hurled to the hard sand of Coronado Beach this afternoon, was catapulted end over end for a distance of 60 feet, escaping death by a near miracle.
It's the fantastic Gates Flying Circus. See the world from the air with our master stunt pilots.
In 1921, Pangborn met promoter Ivan Gates. Together, they formed the Gates Flying Circus.
He was this very ostentatious, flamboyant character. He could whip up all sorts of enthusiasm by contacting newspaper reporters. He was a tremendous promoter.
Crowd stood spellbound in amazement. 40,000 people cultivated weak hearts and stiff necks. Crowds amazed at daring stunts.
The tremendous hunger in this country for people fascinated by airplanes and aviation. The Flying Circus put together this opportunity for the rest of the country to see these flyers.
The Gates Flying Circus grew and grew until the late 20s. It was the largest such enterprise in the country.
They got to the point where they actually had a catalog of different stunts. You could buy and put together your own performance.
Sometimes, to give the local crowd an extra thrill, the Gates Flying Circus would hire a local fan, usually a good-looking woman, to make their first parachute jump over the hometown crowd. Usually a sure-bet winner. But in Houston, Texas, they got more thrills than they bargained for. The excitement was captured in a 1938 radio drama called Men with Wings.
Welcome to WNBC, Mutual Network Radio.
Men with Wings.
Oh, they are the men with wings, courageous men with wings.
Men with Wings. The Mutual Radio Network presents the 8th broadcast in its cavalcade of aviation, dedicated to the people of the air, the Men with Wings.
When trouble's in the air, we'll beat the devils there. No, sir, not angels, just men with wings.
One story that's been told and retold is one of the most thrilling single incidents in aviation history. It happened in February 1924 in Houston, Texas. 25,000 spectators filled Ellington Airfield to see the famous barnstormers of the Gates Flying Circus. Little did they know that one of their own would soon be in danger. Tonight, we're going to relive that eventful day when pilot Clyde Pangborn rescued local girl Miss Rosalie Gordon.
Well, are we ready, Miss Gordon?
I think so, Mr. Pangborn.
Oh, you look lovely in your new flying costume, all white. Very charming.
I'll probably look like a sack of flour hanging down from an umbrella.
I beg your pardon. This is my mechanic, Milton Girton. He's riding up front with you.
Glad to meet you, Miss Gordon. Are you ready to make your first parachute jump?
Yes, exciting, isn't it? Well, what do I do, Mr. Pangborn?
Well, all you have to do is climb out onto the wing and jump at the right moment. I'll signal you when, okay?
Okay.
So, what do you say, Miss Gordon? Shall we go up and start the show for the folks?
Well, I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Climb in, Pang. I'll twist the prop.
Okay, Milt. Switch off.
Switch off. Okay. Contact.
Contact.
As the spectators watched, Clyde Pangborn climbed his plane quickly up into the skies. At 1,500 feet, Pangborn leveled off his plane.
This is it. You ready, Miss Gordon?
I am.
We're directly over the field now. See down there?
I see all right. Oh, it's quite a little drop, isn't it?
Okay, Miss Gordon. I'll climb out on the wing first, then I'll help you out. Give me your hand.
All right.
That's right. Keep a tight grip on what you're holding on to. This wind is pretty powerful right back of the propeller here. All right, come on.
Don't let her stand there long, Milt.
Okay, kid, now's the time. Just duck your head and jump.
You mean like this? See you on the ground!
Hey, she jumped.
What happened? Something's gone wrong.
Whoa, hold the ship steady, Pang. Good Lord, look below us. Her rope is caught on the undercarriage. She's hanging there in mid-air.
Meanwhile, on the ground, the crowd watches in horror.
She must have tangled in the wheels.
She's hanging down and being pulled along by the airplane.
Oh, how can Pangborn ever land her with her hanging down like that?
He can't. It would kill her.
Ah! I can't watch this. I can't watch this. That girl will be killed. Oh!
What's happened?
Up in Pangborn's plane, mechanic Milt Girton climbed down onto the landing gear. Frantically, he pulls on the rope connected to Miss Gordon, but the weight of the girl and the pull of the wind proved too much for him.
I can't do it, Pang. It's too much for me. We need at least 2 men to pull her in.
Oh, wait there, Milt. Let's get some help. Well, look over there. It's Tommy Thompson's plane with Freddie Lund. Let's get Freddie to jump onto our plane and help us.
Reading Pang's signal, A.L. Tommy Thompson jockeys his plane alongside Pangborn's ship. Freddie Lund, a daring wing walker, edges his way to the very tip of the wing, getting ready to jump to the wing of Pangborn's plane. Now, the airplanes are flying even, their wings almost touching, and Rosalie Gordon still swings helplessly below.
I can't hold him any longer. Jump over, Freddie.
Hold it steady, Pang. Here I come.
Well done, Freddie. You made it. Now go down and help Girton pull her in.
Trying their hardest, Lund and Girton still can't pull Miss Gordon in. Rapidly running out of fuel, Pangborn feels the desperateness of the situation. Pang knows that Miss Gordon will surely die if they are forced to land. Deciding to see if his strength can make the difference, Pangborn gives the controls over to Freddie Lund. Joining Girton underneath, Pangborn starts pulling in the rope, inch by inch, as Girton takes up the slack. Pulling with all their might, muscles burning from exhaustion, Pangborn's strength does the trick, bringing Miss Gordon to safety.
Oh, they got her. All right.
Is she still unconscious?
Yes, the poor thing's as limp as a rag. Milt Girton certainly has his hands full holding her onto the undercarriage.
Hey, wait a minute. How are they going to land if she's not in the cockpit?
That's what I'm worried about. Well, if anybody can land that ship without killing those 2 hanging on the landing gear, it's Clyde Pangborn.
Oh, no. I've seen about all this I want.
Well, that goes for me, too. Well, he's nosing her down into an easy glide, trying to land.
He'll never make it. It's impossible.
It is possible. It's got to be possible.
He made it. Pang made it. He landed. I knew he would.
Amazing. He's the greatest flyer I've ever seen.
The girl is saved. Pang did it. Clyde Pangborn saved her life.
By a miracle? By the will of the gods? By fate? But most of all, by being a superior aviator, a man of strength and will and courage, Clyde Pangborn landed his ship and showed extraordinary heroism in the air at the risk of his own life, above and beyond the call of honor. Aviators throughout the world respect Clyde Pangborn as one of America's greatest men with wings.
By the end of the decade, barnstorming crashed along with the stock market as new government regulations aimed to transform aviation from seat of the pants to serious transportation.
The man who recently stated the greatest hazard in aviation today is to keep from starving to death surely hit the nail on the head. Ivan Gates, 1930.
After 11 years, the fabled Gates Flying Circus quietly shut down. Pang later writes fondly of those almost forgotten creatures, the barnstorming pilot.
He has done his bit towards the advancement of aviation. He's made mistakes, and plenty of them. But his exploits will never again be duplicated. He has pioneered aviation in every nook and cranny of this country. He gave thousands of persons their first taste of flying. He has given freely, and as a class, he was a real flying man.
A major chapter in Pangborn's life had come to an end, but aviation was still young, and there were records to set and legends to create.
The Graf Zeppelin is the fastest in the world, successfully completing its historic flight in only 21 days, breaking the around-the-world airspeed record.
There was a real drive to become the first at something. It was a time period when you could be the first at just about anything you identified. And so there's a real spark going on, an excitement really in the world in trying to do things that had never been done before.
Records were being set. History was being written.
There was the hero Lindbergh, who took his Spirit of St. Louis across the ocean to Paris non-stop.
Lindbergh had conquered the Atlantic. The Graf Zeppelin had flown non-stop around the world. It took 21 days to do it. A record, but one that could fall.
Aviators knew that they could beat this around-the-world time.
What is the object of this flight, boys? Well, we want to beat the record of Graf Zeppelin in 21 days. 21 days.
The ink was barely dry on the Zeppelin's record when Americans set out to break it. Wiley Post and Harold Gatty, noted aviators in their own right, joined forces to challenge the world record. Just as determined was Clyde Pangborn, who teamed up with playboy Hugh Herndon Jr. Herndon, better known in society circles than aviation circles, was the son of Standard Oil heiress Alice Boardman.
His mother agreed to put up the money that was necessary for this round-the-world flight.
A strange marriage. The two of them are not an awful lot alike, but I think they needed each other. Herndon needed Pangborn's skills and abilities, and Pangborn needed the backing to make this thing happen.
What was required was a great deal of planning, some financial resources to buy the plane, set up the refueling, do the permits and everything else.
The Around the World Corporation, ATW, was formed with Pangborn, Herndon, and R.J. Huebner, who would run things on the ground while the aviators were aloft. The company's first order of business was buying an airplane. For Pangborn, there was only one plane for the job, the Belanca Skyrocket long-distance model J3 monoplane. They named it the Miss Vidal, after an oil and gas subsidiary of Standard Oil.